Hey there, toy collector friends and Transformers fans alike. Welcome back to the channel. I am the Triple TC, that is the time traveling toy collector, and today we are, I think, finishing off my look at the second Haslab from Hasbro that I engaged with, which is Deathsaurus from Transformers Victory. And we've already taken a look at some of what he comes with, including the two mini-bots, whatever you want to call them, Bota and Peepo. And now we are turning our attention to the main event itself, which is the frankly gigantic Deathsaurus. Now you can see there, that's the stand that he comes with. You can, if I zoom that way a little bit, you can see that I've actually positioned him. I don't do this very often. I've actually positioned him onto the stand. Apologies for the unsteady Steadicam there. Just so we can save a bit of time in terms of showing that feature off. I've put the chest force creatures into position already. And as you can see, I already have him wielding his magnificent saber. On this side, you can see he has his tail shield, which I've already installed there on his shoulder. And if we whiz around to the back, you can see I've also inserted his arrow, his powerful arrow there. This is not your tour of the figure. This is me just showing off what I've already done prior to having a bit of a look at the figure, because what I'm now going to do is slightly disassemble him so I can handle him a bit more in hand. So let's take first of all a look at the saber that he's gifted. Excellent. I'm just gonna, I know I'm going to talk about this in a second, but excellent hand design here, because the accessories are well designed to be held and stored on Deathsaurus. And not just on Deathsaurus, but also on Deathsaurus's throne. So there's lots of storage available. But this is a really, really fantastically designed and beautifully well painted, I would suggest, weapon. So when he's busy sword fighting with Victory Saber and Star Saber, before he merges, he is well equipped to take on that magnificent Autobot Supreme Commander. I'll also just take this off his shoulder here. There's a peg system in here which can rotate to various different options, and again more pegs that will enable you to fit this into his hand, so he can also hold it as a shield that way. I'm not going to spend too much time looking at that. You can also angle it slightly so that it defends him slightly better. A lot of things, I'm just going to, you may have heard that little clack that just happened there. A lot of my experiences of assembling Deathsaurus ahead of this video generated some of those noises, and they're terrifying to those of us who've spent this much money on a glorious, glorious figure, to then hear, as you move things around, hideous and horrendous clacking noises. Because you're just convinced everything's going to break. I'm going to work on the assumption everything isn't going to break, but in the short term, we'll carry on, and I'll be holding my breath. We're going to look at a couple more of his accessories now, before we look at the main event himself. He comes with this flail, which is very, very nice. Again, there's not a huge lot of detail to it, but doesn't need it. A nice loose chain, try and keep that in vision, nice loose chain, and again, the handle has those tabs built into it, so he can hold it, and I'll just do it for the sake of demonstrative purposes. You can hear those nice tight ratchets. Let's open his fingers up nice and wide, slide this in so it can find the slots, which it does, close that up, and then you've got access to that. And of course, you can angle this in any number of ways. He can be carrying it like that, ready to launch it at his enemies. So you can see how that can look. So there's numerous ways you can display these I was going to say effects parts, but they're, you know, just accessories. He does come with a few effects parts, but you all know what blast effects look like, so I'm not going to be wasting our time looking at those today. A quick note, in terms of onboard storage, This can be stored. It's a bit peculiar, but it's an option. Just turning to his back, there is this sort of storage bucket, which we'll get into a bit later, I'm sure, in which that can be held. You can similarly, where are we? You can similarly attach this onto here somewhere. I've got to remember how to do it. Oh, I think it's this. It goes on there. Oops, stay still. So that can then peg onto there, and that will hold his saber in place, so he can have that as well. I won't do it now because I want everything where I can see it, and not causing mayhem when I start doing transformations and things of that nature. But as you can see, lots of storage on Deathsaurus himself. And the last accessory that we're going to spend some time looking at is this, which is the Natalie titled Living Metal Destroying Cannon. Because of course it is. Now this does fold up, as I will try and demonstrate with ease, he says. Might need to move those out of the way. It's got lots of articulation, funnily enough. So it stores, it does have a fold up variation, configuration there like that. Mostly for packaging. So you take it out, it's on a double hinge, so make sure you get that right. It'll click into place and it deploys this handle. This handle can be folded up independently. You'll notice it has the tabs, so it can be used as the other accessories have been. On this side, we have this handle, which is mounted to the side, but can be deployed. Again, let me just move these elements here. Mandibles. It can be deployed that way, which can then help if you're doing some sort of two-handed gun holding. You can also position these mandible things. That's my technical words for them. These mandible things are infinitely flexible, so you can have them exactly how you like. And again, from a colour perspective, I just think this looks great. I want to say that you can move this, but I think that's my imagination. No, it's just the tabs that can hold it in various locations. But what a beautiful bit of design work, and wonderful how it mirrors what was seen in the cartoon. And I think they've done, I just think, you know, for all that we can have concerns and have debates about the viability and the value of Haslab and whether or not it's a good idea, when they turn it out, they really turn it out. And I think that is seen throughout this set, I have to say. You know, I have to say that. I don't have to say that, but I'm compelled to say it, because with what I'm seeing of this figure, it really is fantastic. And it's very, it does fill you with a degree of awe. The posability, the nuances, there's so much majesty in this figure. I mean, just look at that. I mean, I'm going to come in closer for that head sculpt. I mean, it is wonderful. I'll zoom in a bit more there. Tiger chest there, bringing some, eagle chest first, bringing some fantastic, no, it's not eagle chest, just because he's got wings. See, this is what confuses me. So this is tiger chest with the lovely gold wings, and it goes really well with the gold crest, that sort of vac metal gold crest on Deathsaurus's head. That face sculpt is fantastic. I hope you can see those red eyes. It just looks amazing, folks. If you didn't get one of these, and you are lucky, you might be able to get someone being reasonable on the secondary market who would sell this. To be honest, I'm really disappointed in myself that I didn't get a second one, because it really is. You think I'd learned after Victory Saber, but you know, they're expensive, and when they're expensive, you don't necessarily think of committing that much money twice. So I'm going to just show you. I mean, again, there's nothing too rocket sciencey about this, but it's just. I'll tilt it down again, apologies. But you can see, you can levitate him off there just by using that stand system. So you can get him into dynamic poses if that's your thing. And he attaches I might need to just drop down slightly to show you this. Yeah, he attaches here. He has a very, and I'm going to take him off because I need him in my hand anyway. But he has a very unfortunate, although this tends to be the way with Transformers, very unfortunate port just here that attaches into there. This attaches onto the stand. It also has this attachment because you can reverse this slightly for when he's in his other mode. But for here and the now, let's just get him, let me just get him back to a malleable position. I'm also going to take off this, which is the, I was showing you it earlier on, the arrow, so you can see a bit of the quill there at the back. You can see those fabulous tabs that are very, very useful in getting us what we want in terms of storage. And here we are. He's so big, I'm going to have to try and work out the best way of doing this. Maybe if I go back to angling it up again, because he is so big. So again, starting with that face sculpt, I think fantastic. It really is great. You can see eagle chest positioned in there. Sorry, tiger chest. Somebody shoot me. Tiger chest in there. The wonderful detailing on the arms. You can see there the gold and the blue and the black and the red. More gold behind there, but that is for his transformation. We get down to the crutch area where it's black with a nice sort of, I was going to have to call it a codpiece, I suppose, with the red and the silver there. Then we've got some nice grey, very sturdy detailing and plastic there. Again, the gold and red and black blue motif all the way through to the feet. You can see that we've got ankle tiltage there. As you've already seen, we've got all the necessary prerequisite posability that you would expect for this kind of class of figure, including waist articulation, very good. That almost, I would say it's almost too loose, that wrist, that articulation. Let me just turn him round now and show you the reverse, so you can see that there's, as you would hope, no hollow parts. There's some lovely detailing on the back of his wings. If we ignore that there's a space chicken head hanging off there, then his back is relatively clean, but you can see no hollow spaces. As you would expect, there shouldn't be any hollow spaces, but who knows these days. But again, not non-accurate to the source material. So we have him looking fabulous like this. We can, of course, as you know, remove, not those, they need to stay on. We can remove this aspect, so we can remove the chest force, we can remove eagle chest, and then we have access via lifting up the bucket area here. We can pop our finger through. I'm trying to get the best so that we can then fill out that space, a bit like I think it's a Masterpiece Soundwave that has a similar mechanism. By mechanism I mean hole. So that we can then have eagle chest taking up that slot there, whilst we perhaps use the feature of the chest force element to be, I'm trying to think what you call it, the bow, because he can become a bow. So we'll look at that. That's something we'll look at towards the end. But again, fills him up nicely, so you don't necessarily think, oh, there's an unpleasant space. And again, just so that you're reassured, he's easily pushed out through that hole at the back. And as, there's my finger, hello finger, and then as you do, that shuts up. So we've got, there we have, we've looked at these again in the previous video, I know. But then once you've done that, it's not quite so resplendent, admittedly, but it is closed up. So Deathsaurus still doesn't have any unsightly gaps, because he has this spring-loaded flap that will enable him to be fully filled out when he's deploying his chest force in some other way. Okay, so just a quick interruption there to show you, as I was just discussing, Tiger Chest as the bow mode. So essentially you just do a couple of flips of the panels beneath him so he can tab into the arm. There's a panel on the front just below the head, where the head meets the chest, that flips open to reveal a port that can take one of those handy sections on the arrow, and then using the fantastically articulated forward butterfly joints, you can then create those sort of positions where it absolutely gives us a real sense that Deathsaurus is all armed up and ready to take shot at some of those pesky Autobots who keep ruining his Decepticon plans to take the energy from the planet Earth. I just thought I'd do this as an insert now, just because frankly I think it might be easier than trying to do it later on once we get into transformations, etc. But again, how wonderful does this look? So straightforward, so simple, but really, really effective in my opinion. Okay, let's carry on. Okay, so taking the weapons to one side, there is this other accessory that he comes with, not including the blast effects, which is the Decepticon throne. Now, as an Emperor, you would expect him to have Decepticon throne. As you can see, it attaches into that base. We merely pull out the other section and replace it with the throne. Now, I'm always a bit worried about oversized things like that, because I think, oh, they're not going to be terribly useful. It's going to be clunky trying to attach him. I've never yet managed or tried to attach him to the chair, so I will attempt to do that in this video, so fingers crossed. But before I do that, I'm going to move him to the side, because again, I was talking to you about storage earlier, and the throne is in and of itself a tremendous piece of engineering. And I'm not just saying that because you're going, it's a big plastic brick, mate. What are you on about? It is a big plastic brick and it's lovely, but it has other features. And I know if you remember, the Coronation Starscream had a throne in the Studio Series 86 line, and there is a video on that if you want to go and check it out, where some of his bits and pieces could be basically stored like a little cubbyhole on the reverse of the throne. This does that, but takes it to the next level. But the first thing I want to show you, you can see that Tiger Chest is all there, but I've taken Eagle Chest out and converted him into his Eagle mode. And because he's got these pegs in his feet, they can actually fit onto two pegs that are above. This is where I've got to just line it up if I can. There we go. And if I do one, the other one should follow suit, he says. Ever the optimist. There we go. And that enables you to attach him, now you can't see it, to the top of the throne. So he can actually sit there watching over proceedings whilst Deathsaurus is sitting in the throne. So that's already a really nifty bit of engineering. So now let me show you the reverse of the throne. So yes, I did do this in the break between filming the last bit and this bit. All of his accessories, not including the blast effects, can fit onto the back of the throne. It is sculpted to incorporate everything. The instructions do it in one sequence. I'm not convinced it's the right sequence. So you know, I would suggest you put the arrow in first, then you put in the mace, which does attach there using the tabs, and then the chain can just hang freely, maybe around there, as you'll see in a second. Then the sword hangs there. Beautiful design. Looks really odd when you look at the back of the throne, but it is molded to the exact outline of the folded up version of the metal destroying cannon, so it fits flush with the rear design of the throne. It is genius, folks. And then last but by no means least, the shield that we've forgotten about also attaches, so I need to just stand that there. So this hole here, you again turn this around, so this port is there. This port then tallies up with that one, he says. In it pops. You can fold it round a bit if you wish, but you don't have to, because again it will work wonders there. And lo and behold, you've now got all of those things held neatly in position, with the whole of it sealed up on the back. That's the profile look of it there, with Eagle Chest on the top. And then you have the throne itself, which sort of takes us to the next bit, which is where I'm going to try and sit our glorious emperor. I don't know how it sort of shows you on the instructions, but I haven't really looked at them. Why would I do something like that? So it's a bit of a thing, isn't it? We know from Starscream and his... There goes. That was inevitable. But that's fine. We can work with that for now. So let's get his feet up. We can always put it back in a second. Close his legs as best we can. There we go. Now I think the idea is that these two prongs align, I think, with this here. I think that is the trick of it, and we might need to just angle his feet out. Apologies for the extreme close camera work, but that's just trying to move him around, given how hefty he is, so that we can actually... And I've got to get his arms out of the way. You can tell, I think, that this is the first time I've ever tried to put him into the chair. I think that's coming across. But the thing is, I didn't want to sort of rehearse it, only to find out that it isn't something that's very easy to do. This is where I think I might be doing something wrong, but maybe I'm not, because it doesn't seem to want to... go in. But I know that it does, because I've seen... Oh, and there's a slide here, which looks like something else needs to go in. I'm just trying to identify on the back where that might be. Yep, it's all hands and toes. So I'm just, if you can see, there's like a slider there and that slot. So I'm just trying to determine where and how and what slides in there. And I think I've determined that it's that. So let me get these out of the way again. So if I do it that way, you see now, and then we put the feet down, although it doesn't look quite right to me. It's certainly right for the back, but there doesn't seem to be. No, don't do that. Don't do that. There we are. Oh, that's why. Okay. Makes even more sense now. Makes even more sense. I had all my angles akimbo. Right, so in the interests of transparency, he doesn't necessarily sit with his bottom on the throne, but let's have him man-spreading. Seems appropriate. And now he's in, we might well be able to, if I adjust that bottom section a little bit, just get this in enough to hold it for, there we go. You stay in there like that. Let's angle his head up a little bit so he gets a nice shot in the camera. And there we are. So he does actually fit. And I think he looks amazing. I think that is truly, truly beautiful. And of course, you've got the freedom to angle these in whatever way best fits. And I think slightly up helps us with that tremendously. So, yep, we've got eagle chest there. The throne, Deathsaurus sitting in it in all his glory. Yeah, I mean, that's a prime example right there of why I tend, more than tend, not to do transformations. I can't even get them to sit on a throne. Can you imagine me doing a transformation with everyone watching? It isn't pretty, people. But equally, I think it's helpful because it does show that sometimes these things, or at least for me anyway, these things aren't as simple and straightforward as they appear to be. And a ton of people will say, yes, they are. It's perfectly simple and straightforward. What's wrong with you? And yeah, I might take that. It's fair. But honestly, in hand, this is amazing. The vac metal gold pieces, the excellent use of the throne to store the various bits of Deathsaurus's attachments, etc. I'm really glad that I took the time to really look at him in detail, much like I did with Victory Saber. Now I've put him in there, I'm now going to just try and take him out without causing any... You see, much easier, always easier to get them out than to get them in. The only reason I'm doing that is because I'm conscious, because sometimes people go, what sort of class are these figures? Do we count them as, are they like Titan class? Are they Commander class? Personally, I think from an engineer... Well, it's difficult because there's a few things that you're paying for. Price point wise, it's sort of beyond, isn't it? It's beyond Titan class, certainly nowadays. But whether or not we would want to say that it is a Titan class, I don't know. The only thing I will do is I will show you him. I'll have to do it in hand. This is him next to Peepo. So we've seen Peepo. He's one of his packed in Autobot prisoners. So you can see him there. He's more or less slightly bigger than his head. So that's one example of sizing. On trend, here he is with Kingdom Rodimus Prime. So that's them toe to toe. So with Kingdom Rodimus Prime, he was a leader class, commander class, but one of the smaller commander classes. But you can see he comes up pretty much to, if you ignore the spoiler bit, up to his crutch. So that'll give you a sense of that. And then in a random sideways step, here he is with with Marvel Legends Death's Head. And actually, I think they go to the same tailor, which is quite nice. Hadn't really thought about that before, but yeah. So there's leader class, Legends, Marvel Legends Death's Head. You can see where he comes up to slightly higher than the crutch. So there we are. So that just gives you a bit of a sense of what you're looking at in terms of the scale of this. And again, I think it varies depending on the nature of the beast. I think one of the cool things, and I know there's some things that are perhaps less cool with Haslabs, but I think one of the cool things with the Haslab is that it does give you, I'll tell you what, Peepo, I'm going to pop you on there just to keep you in shot for now, is it does give you access to figures that may not be super mainstream. And if I understand correctly, the original plan, if this hadn't been released, as a Haslab, it was going to be a retooling of the Studio Series 86 Grimlock. And if I'm honest, I can see how they might have done that with these parts replacing the sort of back of the dinosaur mode, robot mode, where the sort of flaps are that form part of his chest, etc., in Tyrannosaurus Rex mode. But it would have not been this. This is spectacular. This is really something I'm so enamored with that I can't describe. So I won't try to describe it. Instead, I'm going to take him and transform him into his alternate mode, which I've seen a few examples of, and I don't know how I feel about it because I think it looks a bit curious. I know it's true to the animation, and it's true to sort of Japanese anime type creations. So I'm here for all of that, but I don't know if it's going to be the thing I show him off in. But again, until I see it really in hand, in my own hands, who knows what I might think. And just before I go and transform him, two things. One's about the figure, one's about you. The thing about the figure is the outward moving joints of his arms here were so tight that I genuinely thought for a brief period that wasn't a part of the articulation and I was about to break it. Even though I could see hinges were there, it was so tight. The amount of pressure that I had to apply was scary time pressure. Scary time pressure. When you think about how much this figure costs, you don't want to be pulling an arm off and snapping it. And it felt, I swear to you, that was what was going to happen. It didn't. Eventually it gave. This one gave first and slightly more easily. This one and that gave me confidence. The confidence that I then applied to this arm, which then evaporated when it really didn't want to move. And I thought this is never going to happen. But because I wanted to show you the bow pose, it had to happen. And it did. But yeah, I was filled with dread and again, transformation anxiety, paranoia. I was convinced it was me doing something wrong and it was going to break. It didn't. We're all still here. We're all still happy. Great. The second thing I was going to say is while I'm transforming him into his sort of Kaijo robot chicken space beast mode, tell me which one of those is true or isn't. Could you please do me a huge favour if you're enjoying watching me struggle with this massive figure? and trying to talk my way out of it whilst having hideous close-ups of my wrists, then please smash that like button, if nothing else, in pure sympathy for my ordeals. And if that is the case, then could you also please drop an absolutely free subscription to the channel. Very soon we're going to be seeing Omega Prime arriving. I've had an email telling me it's been dispatched. It should have been here in July 2025, which was already disappointing seeing it arriving other places months earlier. We're still in June 2025, and I've just had confirmation that it's been dispatched, so it could be here any day. And I'm going to do the same thing I've done with these other two. I'm going to take my time to go over videos with them. So if that's not your thing, I totally understand. But I do think if you're spending that much money, you want to have sight of what each one is really like. And of course, I am also feeling a bit sick because I am living in dread of discovering I've got a broken one. And I don't want to have a broken one. I don't want to deal with that. I want one that actually just works. I'm no good at dismantling things. You've probably guessed that already. I can't even get something to sit on a throne. So I'm no good at dismantling things and putting things together and sandpapering things. The idea of it makes me nauseous. So yes, I'm already very, very nervous and feeling a bit sick is the only word I can describe about what I might find in the package, and the very least what might happen when I try and transform it the first time or the second time or the third time. I mean, it's just like a ticking time bomb. So some people have said that the later waves and release waves have been fixed. I don't know if I believe that, because I don't know how it's possible, because I thought this was a one and done run of molds. So why was there be an opportunity? Equally, I mean, it makes sense, because it may well be more sensible business wise, because they cannot screw up their Haslab range. They need that to work. So it may have been more of a sensible investment to actually say, right, stop, let's just do another run, correct the problem, and out they go, rather than have the extended bad publicity of all of the broken ones. I think that's a business decision they needed to make. If it was me, and again, I don't know all of the maths involved, but I know it's going to cost them either way. But I think the better hit to take is less bad PR. I'd rather not have the bad PR and still have to spend the money to send replacements or replacement parts and lose goodwill in the future. Or I'd rather take the hit and just release some new parts and the newly retooled figures with the correct parts that work now, so that we don't have more bad PR, which will cost us more money longer term. I think it's a short-term investment, which will be a loss probably, but a short-term loss that is a reinvestment in the product to ensure future sales. Because yes, we've already locked down, and they're so lucky that about the timing of this, that we've locked down Lyokaiser. But anything beyond Lyokaiser could be a grey area. And Lyokaiser, frankly, has to knock it out of the park. There can be no issues with Lyokaiser. Otherwise, I think Haslab could be dead in the water. Which I think would be a terrible shame. Because as you can see, when they do it really, really well, it's really, really good. Anyway, I've waffled enough. I'm going to go transform him, and if you could subscribe, like all of those things, then you can also hear my random tangential ramblings and in other videos. So how exciting that must be. That must be for you, sitting there now thinking, oh my goodness me, I'm sure I've got better things to do with my life. But if you haven't, stick around and we'll look at Deathsaurus in his robot chicken Kaijo mode. Don't touch that dial. And as promised, here we are back with Deathsaurus in his Cujo mode. And what I've done here is attached him to the stand. I've removed the throne, put this piece in, and adjusted it so that he can be held by it in a slightly live action, wibbly wobbly kind of way, whilst his kaiju form is seen to be flying through the air or through space. I'll be honest, it's not a look I'm going to use, but you can see it, just so you know, it attaches in there. This slot attaches in there, and then you've got these panels here which support either side of there. I am just going to move the base out of the way for a minute and adjust his legs a tad so we can actually get him standing up, which should be far more preferable. I think we'll all agree. Let's adjust his head down and maybe even adjust his wings down a little bit too. So maybe we'll close his mouth a tad. So there is articulation in the robot head there, nice cover at the back there. And as you've seen there, we've got little arms here, little T-Rex arms really. The arms are now the legs, and they're nicely ratcheted as we've seen. The feet splay to give some nice support. It's all very strong. The shield converts into the tail, which fixes really well. Even in this mode, some of this isn't staying quite as nicely tight as I would hope, but even in this mode we can have tiger chest in position just to give some extra detailing and gravitas. There's some, you can actually start to see some of that lovely surface detailing that's there on the neck. A lot, to be honest, as I sort of alluded to earlier, I don't really think I'm going to be doing an awful lot of displaying in this mode, because to be perfectly honest, what is it? I mean, yeah, as I say, I'm not being, I don't mean to be too much of a whatever about it, because it is exactly what it should be. It matches what he looked like in the cartoon. It matches the original toy in many respects. I think it's a significant improvement on the original toys, and certainly what we saw, just trying to balance him so he can actually stand on his own 2 feet, which he can do. And there we go, doing exactly as I've asked him to. I'll pull out slightly more so you get a bit more idea. So again, in his kaiju mode, he still towers over Kingdom Rodimus, as you might expect, because his mass hasn't shifted, and poor little Peepo is likely to wind up as lunch. Hey ho, happens to the best of us, mate. But I do think, again, a really, really terrific figure, and from a transformation point of view, it was quite enjoyable. There was a couple of, again, due purely in this instance, I can put 100%, I can tell you it's down to the stiffness of the joints. There's a few bits of resistance around reallocating some of the panels where the arms are and the legs are. And it does feel like you're doing something wrong, or you can't read the instructions properly because things don't seem to be doing what you're expecting them to do. But the reality is, it's just a bit stiff, and sometimes it's quite useful to have something that you can use, like a pair of tweezers, soft-ended tweezers, because you don't want to damage the plastic. And I find that works really well for me when I'm trying to get things to do stuff, because then I can edge it gently, and if it will give, it will give, and if it's not going to give, you can tell. So ultimately, for me, this mode, it looks interesting, it looks fun. It isn't for me. It's going to be the robot mode, because I think the robot mode is just so spectacular. This would have been, you know, tough for any alt mode to compete with that robot mode. But I like it. Again, it allows for playability. It allows for display options that otherwise, you know, you might not get with a sort of non-transforming figure or version of it. And it certainly is 1,000 bazillion times better than we would have got had they done a retooling of Studio Series 86 Grimlock. Simple as that. So I'm not dissatisfied with this figure by any stretch of the imagination, and I'm really not dissatisfied with everything that comes with it. When you think about the throne, all of the different accessories, the way that they can be stored both on Deathsaurus himself and on the throne itself. I love we get Peepo and Bota to complete that that little subgroup of Autobots from Victory, from Transformers Victory. I think it's a really good bookend for the 2 Haslabs from Transformers Victory. We take a break from Victory for the next one, which, as I've mentioned just now, is Omega Prime. It's due any day, so my breath is bated. And again, I will do the unboxing. My planning is to unbox here. I'll probably do it over four videos, I'm thinking, because it's the unboxing, then it's the possibly Optimus and the accessories, Magnus, and then Omega Prime in its entirety. I think that gives it the most breathing space and the opportunity to look as close as we can. So folks, if you could send a collective positive vibe into the atmosphere, in the hope that myself, and indeed anyone receiving Omega Prime in the near future, receives it intact and it stays intact. Let's hope that's the case. And for all those of you with Omega Prime that isn't the case, I really hope Hasbro get a wiggle on in terms of providing you with the solution that they've been promising to be forthcoming. And I hope it's a sensible solution at that. So folks, this has been my Haslab experience with Deathsaurus. It's been great to finally mess with him. I have to say, I've really loved it. Even in this mode, it's fun to play about with and pose for photos and stuff. I will be, as soon as the video's over, I'll be putting him back in robot mode, because that is just where he belongs, I think, for me. And I'll decide if I'm going to display him with the throne or not. Again, if you've not checked out my other videos, please do. You probably need a break though, because you've been with me for about half an hour with this mammoth monster, and I'm very, very grateful for it. I hope very much to see you in a future video, and of course a past video. Have a little look around. There'll be other things that may be of interest to you. You've been a fantastic audience. I have been the Triple TC, and this has been Transformers Haslab from the Legends, from the Legacy range, and it is Deathsaurus from Transformers Victory. Looking forward to the next Haslab dropping imminently. Thank you for sticking with me on this particular journey, and it just remains for me to say that a thing of beauty, which is possibly his other mode, really is a toy forever. Take care. Bye-bye for now.